They thought they could bully me into obedience, but they didn't know who they were messing with. When I moved into the quiet, picture-perfect neighborhood of Cedar Hills, I thought I'd finally found peace. The houses were beautiful, the lawns were neat, and everyone smiled when you passed by. But what I didn't realize was that beneath all those smiles hid a monster, a three-letter monster called the HOA. Now, I've dealt with homeowner associations before, but nothing prepared me for this one. Cedar Hills HOA wasn't just about keeping the neighborhood tidy. They treated it like a dictatorship. Your grass grows an inch too high. Fine. Your garbage bin is out 5 minutes early. Fine. Paint your door a slightly off shade of blue. You guessed it, another fine. But my story started the day I built a small koi pond in my backyard. It wasn't anything huge, just a little water feature I'd wanted since I was a kid. I dug it myself, lined it with stones, added a small pump and waterfall, and stocked it with a few bright orange koi. The sound of running water at night was peaceful. It drowned out traffic and stress alike. Neighbors even complimented it. Until they showed up. One afternoon, while I was feeding the koi, a man in a neatly pressed polo shirt and sunglasses came marching up to my fence. He had that smug, clipboard-carrying energy that screamed, authority without power. "Afternoon," he said. "I'm Mark, HOA president." I nodded politely. "Hey, Mark. Something I can help you with." He gave me that fake smile people use before they deliver bad news. "Actually, yes. We noticed you've built a pond." "Yup. Just finished it last week." He scribbled something on his clipboard. "You didn't submit an exterior modification request." "It's in my backyard," I said, confused. "It's not visible from the street." Mark shrugged. "Rules are rules. Any structural addition requires HOA approval, even in the backyard." I sighed. "Okay, fine. Where do I get the form?" He smiled like he'd already won. "I'll email it to you, but don't be surprised if it gets denied. Ponds can attract mosquitoes." That should have been my first warning. A week later, I got a letter. Not an email, a letter. It read, "Your request for a water feature has been denied due to potential hazards and violations of neighborhood aesthetics. Please remove the pond within 14 days to avoid fines." I couldn't believe it. It wasn't visible to anyone but me and the squirrels. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I called Mark. "Hey," I said, keeping my cool. "This seems unfair. The pond isn't visible from the road, and it's fully filtered. There's no hazard." Mark's tone was smug. "I don't make the rules. The board does." "Then let me talk to the board." "You can attend our next meeting," he said. "But I'll save you the trouble. They already voted. 3-0. I clenched my jaw. "Who are the three?" He chuckled. "Me, my wife, and our neighbor Tom. A husband and wife power duo running a whole neighborhood. Great." So, I went to their meeting anyway. It was held in the community clubhouse, one of those fancy, air-conditioned buildings the HOA fees supposedly paid for. About a dozen people were there, sipping coffee and pretending to care about landscaping reports. When my issue came up, I stood and explained everything: the size, the filtration, even offered to install mosquito deterrents. Mark interrupted me mid-sentence. "Rules are rules. You can't have a pond." "But there's a fountain in front of the clubhouse," I pointed out. "That's HOA property," he snapped. The board voted again. Denied. I could feel the eyes of a few sympathetic neighbors, but no one said a word. I went home fuming. 14 days later, I got another letter, a fine notice, $250 for noncompliance. Then another one, every week after that. They were trying to bleed me dry until I gave in. But instead of giving up, I got smart. I dug through the HOA bylaws, 73 pages of dense legal text, and guess what I found? A clause that allowed decorative water features under 18 inches deep, provided they are maintained and pose no risk of standing water. Mine was 17 inches deep. So, I sent them a copy of the bylaw with a note that said, "I believe you owe me an apology and $750 for wrongful fines." Mark didn't reply. 2 days later, I came home to find my pond drained. Completely. Bone dry. The koi were gone, or dead. My pump was unplugged, and there were muddy footprints by the fence. I felt my chest tighten. Someone, probably them, had broken into my yard and destroyed my pond. I called the HOA office immediately. Mark answered. Someone vandalized my pond. I said. He hesitated, then said, the board authorized maintenance to remove an unapproved water feature. You had no right. You were in violation, he said coldly. We were simply enforcing policy. That's when I snapped. They wanted to drain my pond? Fine. I'd show them what draining looks like. That weekend, I planned my revenge. I didn't want to do anything illegal or destructive. I just wanted to embarrass them, make them regret ever messing with me. So, I spent a few evenings researching, and came up with a beautifully legal, incredibly poetic plan. It started with water. I rented a portable water tank, the kind contractors use, and filled it with clean, harmless water. Then, under cover of night, I rolled it down the street toward the HOA's office building. And let's just say, by the next morning, Cedar Hills HOA had a little water feature of their own. The best part, I made sure to capture every moment on video. By the time the sun rose over Cedar Hills, the HOA's office looked like a scene from a disaster movie. The once pristine carpet was soaked, papers floated like lily pads, and the smug little welcome home neighbors sign had toppled into a puddle. But here's the thing, I hadn't actually broken anything. No damage, no vandalism, nothing illegal. I'd used the tank to run a small hose through the air vent above their front door, then gently flooded the entryway with about 3 inches of clean water. Just enough to make a point. I even left a note taped to the door. You drain my pond. I returned the favor. Enjoy your new water feature. Within an hour, my phone was blowing up. Mark had sent a mass email to every homeowner. The HOA office has experienced a malicious act of property damage. We are investigating and will pursue legal action. The neighborhood chat exploded. Some people were horrified, but others, the quiet ones who'd been fined for petty nonsense, started posting laughing emojis. Someone even wrote, "Finally karma." But I wasn't done yet. Remember that video I mentioned? I had filmed the whole setup with a GoPro and a drone. Not only did it show exactly how harmless my act was, but it also highlighted the real issue, how the HOA had trespassed and destroyed private property. So, I uploaded the video. Title: HOA drains my pond, so I give them one of their own. Within 24 hours, it hit 50,000 views. Comments poured in. Bro is the Batman of suburban neighborhoods. You're a legend. HOAs are modern-day tyrants. Mark's probably crying into his clipboard right now. By day 3, the video had crossed 250,000 views. News outlets started reaching out. And that's when the real magic happened. People began sharing their own HOA horror stories. Suddenly, it wasn't just my fight, it was a movement. But Mark didn't take it well. He showed up at my door, red-faced and furious. "You think this is funny?" he barked. "Honestly," I said. "A little. You've humiliated us online. Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Oh, I do," I said calmly. "I reminded you that you're not above the law." He jabbed a finger toward my face. "You're paying for that cleanup." I smiled. "Actually, no. Because according to the video footage, I didn't damage property. I used water. And I have proof that you trespassed and destroyed my pond. So if you want to go to court, we can." For a second, he looked like he might actually explode. But then he stormed off, slamming his car door hard enough to make his mirror shake. 2 weeks later, I received a letter, but not from Mark. It was from the HOA's legal representative. They were dropping all fines against me. The water incident was being considered a misunderstanding. And most surprisingly, Mark had resigned as HOA president. Apparently, after the video went viral, several homeowners petitioned for his removal, citing abuse of power and misconduct. Turns out, I wasn't the only one he'd bullied, just the first who fought back. The new HOA board sent me a formal apology. They even reimbursed me for the koi I lost and granted me official permission to rebuild the pond. This time, I made it even bigger, a full garden centerpiece, with solar lights and a mini waterfall. And yes, I posted a follow-up video titled, "HOA apologized. My new pond is 10x better." That one went even more viral. Before long, people started visiting my channel not just for the revenge story, but for pond building tutorials and neighborhood advice. I never planned to be the HOA guy, but somehow, that's what I became. And every now and then, when I sit by the pond at night and listen to the water trickle under the moonlight, I think back to how it all started. One petty rule, one stubborn man, and one koi pond. The moral? Never underestimate someone who's calm, because calm people plan. And if you ever try to drain my peace again, well, I've got plenty more water where that came from.